Hey guys, it's me Orange Bear, and guess what? I thought it'd be a really great idea for me to rank all the tanks in the game for you guys. So what we're going to do here is rank the worst tank all the way to the best tank in Zooba. Now before we start this list, I wanted to tell you guys that there are 10 tanks in the game and I'm going to name all of them for you right now. We got Frank, we got Donna, Duke, Quinn, Tony, Bruce, Buck, Jack, Earl, and Zach. Now let's get into that and start this list off with number 10. Tony. I think Tony is a decent character, but overall he's not the greatest tank character. Yes, he can heal himself with his passive while GG's near him, but at the same time I don't feel like he does enough damage or he can absorb a lot of damage. He has a very good recovery rate, but he just cannot absorb damage. You hit him and it feels like he chunks so easily, but if you run away you can obviously regen yourself no problem. And that's probably the bonus side of being with Tony, and GG herself doesn't really add a lot of utility compared to what a lot of the other tanks have, so that's why he's number 10 on this list. Next up in the number 9 spot we have Frank, a super tanky elephant that can absorb a lot of damage. But his active is extremely weak, which is really bad, and when I say weak it's mainly because of his range. It just isn't enough to suck up most enemies effectively. Coupled with that, Frank is really slow. He's not the fastest person in the zoo, which kinda sucks. So you're not really able to gap close or catch enemies. You're literally just a meat shield in Zooba, which is not the greatest thing when there are other tanks that can maneuver around you, or characters like Nyx and Jade who can just run circles, damage you, and get out. Your suck ability, which is your active, just doesn't have enough range as I stated earlier. Also, it doesn't suck you in fast enough, which is another problem with Frank. He's easily outplayed, and that's why he's here at number 9 on our list. And for number 8 on our list, we're gonna go with Jack. Now Jack has a very useful active for utility, allowing your teammates to gain speed. But at the same time, he's not the toughest tank in the game. He's not able to absorb a lot of damage, which makes him very squishy when it comes to a tank. He's more used as a sub-support tank. He can't be your main tank as he's just not able to take that much damage. He also does not have great engage or defensive capabilities. His main damage on a whole is just coming from his bow and arrow. When you look at Frank, Frank's whole kit is damage. It can do a decent amount, but he's too slow to do anything. Jack, on the other hand, he is fast, but he just can't pump out damage. He literally has his bow and arrow, which does most of his damage, and coupled with vampire teeth allows him to heal. However, if he does go in range to use his bomb and his spear, the issue is that he probably won't make it out because he simply can't absorb the damage that the enemy team is dishing him. And this is why he's placed number 8 on our list for tanks. Now for number 7 on our list, we're going with Quinn. Now Quinn is a solid tank overall. She's a nice support tank as well in groups, so she can be your secondary tank no problem. But Quinn is not that tough. She's tough, but not tough enough where you could say she's like Bruce. She's a little tougher than Jack, not as tough as Bruce basically. She's a lesser version to Bruce. She's also very slow just like Bruce. But Quinn being a very good support tank is because when you put her in the water, her passive allows her to heal. Now that healing can help you and your team recoup health if you guys are able to disengage from a fight. Quinn is also not the perfect tank if you're going to go in a long-term fight, as she cannot absorb enough damage to do anything. However, with her active and she can dive bomb to do engage, when you have your primal instinct it becomes a lot more useful, as when you engage with your dive bomb you can stun, or you can save allies by dive bombing an enemy, attacking them, stunning them, and giving you guys the opportunity to turn around the fight. Now these are reasons why I think Quinn makes number 7 on our list. She's not too high, but she's right there at the bottom because she could be a little better. But I will say she can do a good amount of damage, especially with her bombs, as it has a long range. You can easily kite back or just keep throwing your bombs out like Buck. And for number 6, we're going with Donna. She is one of my favorite characters in the zoo, definitely, and I tried to keep that opinion out of this list, making it a generalized statement when it comes to overall Zooba players, because I know she's not a character that a lot of people are fond of or really play when they want to play a tank. She's also the hardest tank class to master. Donna is the hardest character to master when it comes to the 9 tanks. Also to note that she is very tough. She can absorb a lot of damage. This crocodile can take a serious beating from any enemy team and probably make it out. She's also very versatile as she's able to engage both on land and in water, which is very useful, I would have to say. Another thing is her damage is massive. She can do massive burst damage if done correctly, and she can still attack from afar with her bow and arrow, which gives her a head over a lot of tanks, especially if you have that knockback max. Another thing you want to know is that Donna herself is very slow on land. She's very slow, just like Bruce, which is a big issue when playing her. A lot of people find her very hard to play and slow, as well as she's not able to disengage easily, which is very true. She is not able to disengage with her speed, even with her primal instinct allowing her to come out of the water and gain some extra speed. It is very nice to engage, but retreating is always the big problem unless you're near a body of water. Now for number 5 on our list, it's a fan favorite, Duke. I know he's widely regarded as a fan favorite over the Zooba players. He's very nice, and with the massive buff to his primal instinct, he is now higher up on this list. I personally believe before this buff, he wasn't very useful at all, but with this buff to his primal instinct, he has a massive range to his fear, which is incredibly strong when it comes to Duke. Another thing noting that he can do a very good amount of damage, which is very nice. He can be tanky, but he's not the toughest of the tanks. He cannot absorb too much damage. He will go down. But with his fear, he has a very unique playstyle as he can go in and engage on teams. But most of the time with Duke, what you do is you wait for people to come into you and then you use your active, fearing that whole team and allowing your team to just dish out massive damage. He can one-shot a lot of people in the game if done correctly without their adrenaline shot being activated. Another thing to note is that Duke overall is one of the best looking tanks in the game. I think he looks great. I mean, who does not love a lion in the game? Am I right? Also, the amount of damage he pumps out with his bow and arrow can heal him so much with his vampire teeth equipped. Now, another thing to note when it does come to Duke is that when you are using your primal instinct, use it very wisely, because once this is down, you and your team are basically vulnerable. You're not going to have anything extra to keep you alive. Due to all these things I've stated before, this is why Duke is a very high level tank. You need to have his primal instinct in order to really play Duke. If you don't have your primal instinct, he's not going to be that useful of a tank. You need that primal instinct, as I said before, which can carry him into the later stages of the game, which is why a lot of high level Zooba gameplay, you will see players choosing Duke as their tank option. Now our next character here for number 4 is going to be Bruce, the standard basic tank. He is literally the definition of a tank. He is immovable, tough, and nothing can stop this monkey. His main issue is that he's slow. That's all it really is. When he gets his primal instinct, he can pull you in when he slams into the ground. He can also pump out a good amount of damage. Now, his main issue in my opinion is the fact that he's slow and his gap closers are near to none. But he's so tanky that he can literally keep running after you. You need to keep kiting this tank. If you don't, he's gonna run into your team and smash down, taking down half your health, allowing his team to engage in and destroy you. He can also act as a very good gatekeeper. When people run into his team, he can slam them and pull them away from his allies, allowing them the opportunity to either run or turn around the fight. Now for number 3, we have Buck, the #1 fan loved tank in Zooba. He's the most used out of all the tanks in Zooba because he's one of the earliest tanks you can obtain, and people just love playing him overall. Me personally, I don't like Buck that much, but that's okay. Okay, so another thing we need to know about Buck is he does not have great gap closers. Yes, he has his charge, but that's all he's got. After that, he's more or less useless. So that's why when you're using Buck, you need to use your charge properly, because that's all you got. You can't run away. You are too slow to run away, and you're not tough like Bruce, where you can wither a lot of damage. You will go down if you use your charge wrong into an enemy team. Another thing you need to know is when playing Buck, you do have the ability to just keep throwing your bombs and kiting people backwards, which is very good because his bombs are his main damage dealer when you're going into teams. After that, you don't really got much. But yes, the main thing with Buck is that he has his charge. That small charge is all you've got. He could have been lower on the list, but because he's such an easy tank to pick up and a lot of people do play him, that's the only reason he's higher on this list. And he's faster than Bruce, which is why he's above Bruce. And for number 2, we have Earl. Now, honestly, this should have been number 1, but the only reason this tank is not number 1 is because of the other characters that just came into the game. So I'm gonna tell you this right now. Earl, in my opinion, is one of the best tanks in the game. He's probably the best tank that you need to obtain and master. He gives you the most versatility and utility out of any tank in the game. And I'll explain here why. I think Earl is the most versatile tank simply because he's able to engage by pulling with his claw. He can pull you out of your group so his team can take you out, or he can pull you to separate you from your team to allow his team to go in on you. He can even save his allies with a good pull. Another thing that makes him very useful is that he can kite around whole enemy teams. He has so much speed if you can master his sidewalk that the enemy team is unable to catch you or do damage to you. You can literally keep running circles around them with your speed. The only characters that basically can keep up with you is Nyx, Max, and Jade. Everybody else really can't. And you have a great knockback with your spear. And at the same time you can keep pulling things. So for example, if you see an enemy player coming on your ally, you can pull him into the water once you have Holy Sandals equipped. And if that enemy player does not have Holy Sandals, that enemy player has now become useless and you can just do free damage on him or watch that enemy player suffer trying to make it back to shore. That's one of the best things there when it comes to Earl. Another thing you need to understand about Earl is how easy it is to play him. He's not hard to master. When I say mastering him, that's what I want you to do. but in reality 2 to 3 games and you should be able to master his sidewalk. His pull, that's going to take you a little while, but not too many games because you can land the pull probably 8 out of 10 times. Another thing I want you to know is he is very tanky. He's not super squishy at all. He can take a lot of damage, not as much as Bruce, as I would say, because Bruce is the high level of tanks, but he can definitely take a good amount of damage and run away without issues if you're running low on health. I've literally watched many Earl players turn around games on bare minimum of 10% health simply because they can keep taking damage no problem, and they have Vampire Teeth using their bow. They're able to regen their health easily, and when you have your Primal Instinct, you're not only grabbing people, you're knocking them with some damage as well. Earl overall is probably the best tank, but because this next character just came out, he took it, and I'll explain to you why. Now, obviously, you heard me saying it earlier, but the number 1 tank in the game currently is Zac. There is no better tank than Zac. Zac literally demolished everything we thought we knew that Zooba could add for a tank. For example, and it's pretty simple, he's the tankiest of all the tanks. He's just as tanky as Bruce. He's solid. He also has a passive that allows him to regen a shield, so you're basically having a shield to absorb free damage at all times. He also can dish out massive damage exactly like Earl, and that is big. His damage is massive, and he has the bomb length just like Buck, which allows him to kite back and do what he was, but he doesn't need a kite because he's not slow like most of the tanks. This guy's base speed is higher than most of the tanks out there. He can run as fast as probably any other damage dealer on basic speed without any extra boost, which makes him very versatile. Another thing that makes this guy great is his charge. Now this right here is what propelled him all the way to number 1. His charge allows him to literally, you can pick up 5 players with your charge and drag them. They won't be able to do anything. Slam them into a wall, and if you have enough health or damage, you can literally one-shot them. If not, you'll do so much damage to them that they won't know what hit them, allowing your team to engage and demolish them. You can even charge and get 1 or 2 players and get them away from your team. You can even charge them into the water and make them super useless if they do not have Holy Sandals. And this is why Zac is the number 1 tank in the game right now. There's not going to be another tank to beat him right now. At least I don't think so. If they do add another tank, I don't know what it's going to be, because this guy has almost everything needed for a super S tier tank. Alright guys, and that concludes the list for the top 10 tanks in Zooba, from worst to best tank in the game. Now leave a comment down below letting me know which one of these tanks were your favorite, or what your list would be if you could make one of your own. And please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.